Major funding for these broadcasts is made possible by grants from New York Community Bank, Capital One Bank, M&T Bank, Customers Bank, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Perfect Building Maintenance, Genova Burns, Terra CRG. Additional support is made possible by AKA Hotels Corman Communities, Aerial Property Advisors, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Collins Building Services, Colliers International NYC, Connect One Bank, CPEX Real Estate Services, Cushman & Wakefield, DDG, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Eastern Union Funding, Fisher Brothers, First Nationwide Title Agency, Flushing Bank, Friedman, Handler Real Estate Organization, HAP Investments, Hersha Hospitality, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Matone Group, Mercantile Commerce Bank, Meridian Capital Group, New Banks, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rosewood Realty Group, SJP Properties, Sterling National Bank, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, The Continuum Company, the Moynihan Group, and these friends.
Family businesses. Statistically, they really are hard to go from one generation to another generation. They say to get to the third generation of a family business, it's like maybe 12%. To get to a fourth generation, you're lucky if you're at 3%. So today, I have assembled two families who are really in their fourth generation and with children on the way and existing in the fifth generation, hopefully, of family businesses. My guest today is Marty Meyer, who is the vice chairman at Colliers. Colliers, New York?
Colliers, New York.
Colliers, New York. Michael Rudin, who's the vice president at Rudin Management. The other member of the Meyer family, Eric Meyer, who is the senior managing director at Colliers, New York. Michael's sister, Samantha Rudin, who is a vice president at Rudin Management. And in the third generation, Bill Rudin, who is the president or the CEO? CEO of Rudin Management. So your fourth generation, I remember we've done the life story. You know, when your father, did he say to you, Bill, you're going to join the business?
I don't think there was ever a moment where we had those discussions. My grandfather, though, before I went off to college, said, don't go to college. Come up to the business, put a desk and a chair in his office, and learn the business.
So in that way,
I didn't take his advice, and I wish I had done that.
Now, do you think your grandfather said to your dad, let him rest in peace, who I loved, who was a wonderful man, you're going to join the business?
I'm sure there was a I think, well, in my dad's, when we did his life story and he did audio tape, he talked about that and he said it was just sort of written in the sands. I don't think there was ever a open discussion about it, but it was just sort of, that was just the way it was with him and his brother Jack, that they were going to come into the business.
But I think perhaps that was a different time. You know, it was a different world, a different market. You know, the economy wasn't that. It was a different.
No, it was after World War II. It was a totally different
thing.
Yeah.
Tell me about your family.
Well, I was in accounting, and my father-in-law said to me, "Come join the business." And I said, sounds good.
Now, but how did your father-in-law get into the business?
His father was in the ironworks business, did fire escapes and things like that, and he was buying up a residential building. And after World War II, he decided to venture into the business. He started a business, and he decided that he wanted to go with a company, and he sent a letter to, at that time, Victor Cohn, who started Williams, the predecessor of Colliers, and didn't give his real name. And his resume and whatnot was, and Victor said, come in, and he met Victor, and as soon as he saw him, he knew who he was, and he said, you're hired. And he came and he worked, and after that, the rest is history.
Now, what's interesting is that the two of you are at Colliers, who is basically a leading leasing broker in the city of New York. But you're also, from your father-in-laws, from going back, you're in the ownership, okay? Rudin Management, everyone knows, owners, operators, developers of property. When did the family get involved with ownership of real estate?
We've owned buildings, as I said, my father-in-law, his father owned. He owned for many years a number of things we've bought over the years. I bought as soon as I started in the business. We were buying, and we've not stopped since. We've been buying.
So now, since we have one female amongst us male chauvinists over here, okay, how do you decide? You went to Tisch. You wanted to be an actress. How do you decide to join the family business?
Well, thank you. It was actually...
Don't worry, we're picking on you in a little bit.
It was actually another female's idea, a very strong one. It was my mom's idea in 2007. I had graduated from college in 2006 and was struggling with, I didn't have enough courage to become an actress. So it was my mom's idea for me to just start working.
If you go to Rebney, it's Liar's Ball, so it's like...
The irony is that there's probably more drama in my life, right? Well, it's a toss-up, but I'm very happy that I chose this path. Theater training was very hard, and it became almost very comforting and soothing for me to start working for my family, because I'd walk through our lobby and, I had always loved my grandfather, and it connected me to him. Just walking through the doors that I knew he had walked through. And even in the beginning when I was struggling to find my footing, I always had that connection until I started to feel more and more comfortable and feel like I was truly at home. And that's sort of how I just ended up staying.
So here's a question, and I'll ask both sides. When did your father-in-law pass on?
1992.
1992. 1992 is 24 years ago.
Right.
You were 16 years of
17.
age. 17 years of age. Do you think your father-in-law would have wanted him to join the business, or he may have said, "Be a physician, be a doctor"? Okay.
No,
He
100%.
always wanted me to be in the business. We'd be sitting at family events, and he'd pull me aside and have discussions about different deals he was working on both the brokerage side and on the purchase side, and repositioning of assets and whatnot. So it's always been that way.
Now, do you think your grandfather would, as your dad was saying to me, he'd be quelling that you were in the...
Absolutely, and it's very interesting because Sammy and I were probably around the same age that Eric was when our grandfather passed away. I was 16, she was 17. It was September 20th, 2001, so 9 days after the terror attacks. And our mom had another great idea at the time. Following his passing, my mom said, why don't you, this is obviously a very tough time for our family on top of what was going on in the city, in the country, and everybody was sort of struggling to move on and really keep going. And as a way for both myself and my father to sort of cope with the major loss that had just occurred within our family, and then on top of that, what was going on in the city, my mom said, "Why don't you go and take a semester off of school?" I was a junior in high school at the time, and work for your dad. I had spent one summer when I was 10 working at one of our buildings downtown, but that didn't really give me a true experience of what my dad did on a daily basis. And so I spent my fall semester of my junior year of high school shadowing my dad. Obviously a very unique time to be
sort of learning.
Right after 9/11, it's a very unique time.
Yeah,
to learn.
and that was really, I think I knew before that I was intrigued and fascinated by real estate, but that was really sort of the turning point for me and what really sort of sparked the fire for me to eventually go into the family business.
We literally went downtown, and when they opened up, at least for people who own buildings, to go downtown, and Michael came with me, and we went to all of our buildings because they were the men who were working in those buildings at that time were literally in lockdown there, and so we went down, we brought supplies down, and we thanked them for their incredible work. But it was a very great. I think my wife came up with a wonderful idea for both of their kids to really get them involved, and that was definitely an important moment for our family in terms of both getting them into understanding what they were going to inherit somewhere along the line, and to get actively involved into the day-to-day running of the business and understanding, that it's every day getting up and doing things and getting involved. And they became instantly passionate, and that I think that's something in our conversations before. It's about passion, and these.
But I think
all these.
I think
young
if you're in a family business, to succeed, you truly have to have passion. Family businesses that don't succeed, that go down to the breaking of the generation, is that they don't have the passion in it. Okay, and part of this transition, I think, part of something really which helped. In a way, even though you came directly in the business after college, is that the junior year away was like your training ground, and that provided insight. Your time trying to become an actress also gave that experience, because certain family businesses, you're different. You went in immediately.
Well, the previous few summers I had worked in the buildings and had done construction, demolition, electrical work, and air conditioning.
No, I'm saying that was experience, but
Correct.
what I'm saying to you is certain times many family businesses try to say, stay 2 years away, especially in the real estate families. They'll find you a job in a bank, or there'll be something through some relative, a friend that we have in the community.
Well, Michael worked at Blackstone and Cushman & Wakefield.
Right.
And
Yeah, I think it's good, whether
training.
you're, really diving in and spending a year or two or more at a firm, or like our dad just said, I spent a summer working at Cushman & Wakefield to see the brokerage side of the business. I had gotten my salesperson's license the year before, so one summer in college I did that. The following summer, because of a contact from Cushman who had moved over to Blackstone, I worked at Blackstone in their asset management group of their private equity fund, and that was to see a different. Both of those experiences allowed me to see a different side of the business, because those two businesses are completely different than the way we operate our business.
Samantha's experience in studying theater
And art.
and acting, I think, brought tremendous value, and all the things that she's been involved in within the company, and the creativity side.
And that relates to my subject, which we discussed earlier in the green room. Sometimes when you go into a family business, things change, okay? As I was saying about your family, you hadn't done a development in 10 years, and then you went to the St. Vincent site and built this, renovated one building and built the other buildings over there. I think when Eric joined the business, you became a little more active in looking for certain office buildings or other different type of properties. Am I correct?
I think it was a timing issue. I think that we had bought some stuff in the 70s, and in the 80s it was a little more difficult to purchase, just because of the economy, what was going on. And when Eric came in, the market was starting to develop.
I think it's a combination. The fun part, the creative part, is buying the property, redeveloping it, building a new building, and that really gives you the energy. But again, you have to do the day-to-day blocking and tackling in terms of your existing portfolio. But the timing was great, and yes, I think from a family long-term perspective, understanding that, and then getting them engaged in that we were very lucky in terms of that timing.
So now I have two questions, and anyone pick out the answer over here. One is the question of cousins and other relatives in the business. I'm not talking about husband and wives. I'm talking about, you have a cousin in the business who works with you.
I have several cousins.
No, I know. How difficult for everyone to feel happy in the playground, as they would say.
Well, I'll start off with the answer. Well, first of all, we had, I think, tremendous role models with Jack and Louis Rudin, and their partnership was very, very unique. And I think they had a great role model in their father, Sam, and his relationship with. He had 8 brothers and sisters, so he had to navigate those family dynamics. But Jack and Louis Rudin had just such a special relationship, and I think set the template of working together, respecting each other, and sitting down and talking through whatever the issues of the moment were, and communicating. And that was really the key. And I think that's what my cousin Eric and my sister Beth, and my other cousins try to do with the next generation, and work together and be inclusive in trying to come together and move the company forward.
I would say with us, the larger portion of our portfolio we've bought in the past, say, 18 years since I've been in the business. So it's really been my father and I creating.
And what about cousins?
From the 70s and whatnot, as investors, yes, but not operating the business.
Not operating business.
And I have a little something to say that's sort of an offshoot of that, kind of connecting back to your question about me in terms of being a woman and working for our business. I think that, it's one thing to get in to a business, and then it's another thing to sort of stay in and be happy. And I think that, I went to an all-girls school, and when I was there, I went to Spence, and I received a great education. And when I was there, the girls, we were never told that there was anything we couldn't do. And when you grow up with that kind of where you feel like you can do and be anything, and that nothing can stop you, you really go out the door every day and you feel great and happy and confident. And there's nothing like that. It's the greatest medicine in the world. Now, that's in school. When you go out into the real world as a woman, it can be hard. And in family businesses, women can be treated differently. In any business, women can be treated differently. So for me, I'm very lucky that I have a family business to go into that I was lucky enough to go into. And then I was also even more lucky on top of that to have a father who protected me once I stepped in there, to make sure that, again, like when I was in school, he made me feel like that there was nothing I couldn't do. So even in the beginning, and I still don't know a lot of things.
Okay, your mom and dad are nurturing, and Marty and Eric are nurturing. There are people in family businesses who don't nurture,
right,
and they basically want to make it very hard for you, and they cause this grief over there that certain people say, I got to get out of the family business.
But that's
right.
short-sighted.
I think what you're alluding to, and what Billy said, was when the person who's doing it, you have to have the passion, and we have the respect. So if you can't have a relationship in our business unless you don't have the respect for your kids.
It's also important, I think, for family members to have different skill sets where they work on different components of the business, so that while they discuss and grow together, they don't necessarily do the exact same thing.
I was saying before, and Michael was on a show a couple months ago with me, one time when I did Billy's Life a number of years ago, we were talking that nearly everything that the Rudin family did was close to 54th Street and Lexington Avenue. Okay, we went downtown, but that was the joke. And, your business was Manhattan, okay? Suddenly, you're doing a major project with Boston Properties at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Okay, that's one thing. Then the other situation that happened with St. Vincent's. These are, it's a generation. When Bill was involved with the business, and I remember, 55 Broad changing the change, and that was like something for you. And then also 3 Times Square. I'm looking at different times in life cycles over there on different type of developments.
So it's about the body of work. It's about what it's all about timing also. But the decision to go to Brooklyn was an interesting one, and something we're very excited about and looking forward. in 2016 to break ground and working very closely with our partners at Boston Properties. Then again, it's a different, we were talking about before, it's a different model for us, and we have a partner who's in the real estate business. And I mentioned before, Bill Bratton wrote a book about collaborate or perish, and we're collaborating, and I think that's the thing within our company.
But I believe that's what you have to, in a family business, you have to collaborate.
Well, that's no question about it.
And that's the circumstance, and that's the way that you and your cousin operate, on that generation, and that's how you're collaborating also. Okay?
And it's what Eric said. I mean, people have different skill sets. Like, I couldn't do, I do what I feel comfortable doing, and that I bring that, a design element to the table that, is that, I couldn't do what my brother, I couldn't do certain other things. But everyone, I think, brings to the table what their strengths are, and then you work together, and then, and also, I think what has made our lives so fun and exciting is that we all kind of, have different opinions, and we go back and forth, and it brings the drama to it because we don't always agree, but it's also like you're working.
So here's the question. Do we have the off-site? No, I'm not being facetious, because I was telling you about a friend of mine who specializes in coaching family businesses and also coaching professional firms, lawyers, how to get along with their partners and everything else. Do you sit down, do you I mean, in addition to working together, do you sometimes get off-site and sit and think about what you're going to be doing?
Well, we basically all live together, so it's hard not to do that. We take family vacations together, but I think the work home balance is key too. We if something major is happening and we all happen to be together, whether it's over the summer or on a family vacation, and we're not in the office, sure, we'll talk about it. But typically, it's we're enjoying being with each other and just spending time with the family and trying to sort of not focus on the business. Our business is a 24/7 business, and so there's always something going on. But we try and enjoy ourselves outside of that.
Here's a question: you're a mother. You're in a business. You have a 3-year-old. That even complicates it even more, right? How do you adjust? How do you handle that? Being a mother, being a member of a family business, and this is not a family business that's not vibrant, that you own so many buildings, you're in all aspects of this, and now you're doing different type of development. How do you handle that?
Well, again, I'm very lucky because being able to be with work for my family allows me the flexibility to also be with my child a lot, with my little girl. And the truth is that, and my brother is about to have a baby, and that beginning part, it's incredible, but that's the most work I've ever experienced in my entire life. So I'm going to tell you something. The day I got to go back to work, and I remember I was sitting at my desk, and I had nursed my child, so I was very happy just to keep my clothes on. And I was sitting at the desk, and I was like kind of falling asleep in the chair, but it was like vacation. It's actually, and I feel lucky to be able to go to work, and I feel incredibly lucky to be able to go home and be with my child. And I feel so lucky that I get to receive that balance at this time, because I know there are a lot of women who are either having to work all day and can't be with their children, or they're at home all day and they're with their children and they're working harder than anyone I know. So I feel lucky I get to do a little bit of both.
I think you go back to the proximity, and that commutation time is very short to get from our office to home, or to pick up her daughter. And mind you, she runs
the business already at 3, so we're all actually
right.
You're
her
all working.
Now, as I was saying, besides you're in ownership of the buildings. You and Eric. You're also in the leasing business as a team. That's the interesting phenomenon.
We always kind of get along. When it's business, we discuss, we disagree, we have different approaches, but at the end of the day, we really kind of come to, that's the collaboration that Billy was talking about, as we come to a solution. And
so here's a question. and it's not saying getting spouses into a business. How do spouses understand? It's a question of how. I mean, your wife, okay, your husband, your wife, your mother.
My wife used to work at Newmark, so she understands. She was a broker.
Her father is in the business.
Right, my father-in-law is in the business.
My wife's father was.
My sister-in-law is in the business. My brother-in-law is in the business.
So you're saying that if, and you said your father-in-law is in the real estate business.
Well, their
I think
businesses
part of the chemistry, the formula to make it successful, is that you need the spouse to be understanding.
But it's no different. It's collaboration. It's having a great partner, and it's communicating
I agree.
and supporting each other. And it's like life. You have to. Yeah, you know, we all don't necessarily agree on everything at any moment in time, but if you love someone and you care about someone and you respect their view, and there are so many things that from my wife has suggested and from a different perspective, and I said, I didn't think about that.
They have
That's
some great ideas.
And
my wife
so
has some great
particularly,
ideas.
Having the kids, Michael coming in after 9/11 and Samantha, after Tish. So those were major ideas, and there are hundreds of other ones I could talk about.
When I walk into a Rudin building, I don't want to. I see a 3-year-old artwork,
I got artwork for Christmas from Elle that will be hanging in my office very shortly. So.
So as I was saying at the beginning, you have to have the right chemistry for a family business to continue to survive and grow. And it looks like, you've had the right chemistry and the right material, because you're in the fourth, both of you, and I'm pretty certain that the fourth is going to go into the fifth. And hopefully, and let's continue on. And I'd like to thank Marty Meyer, Michael Rudin, Eric, Samantha, and Bill. See you again. And as I celebrate my 801st show, the beginning of the new season. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.